Okay, hi. My room is very messy. Hi, I'm gonna fold my laundry and I'm just gonna chat about Star Wars. I did see Rise of Skywalker and this is me saying that I didn't like it. I'm very sad. I mean, I'm really actually not that sad, which is kind of the funny thing about it. I really don't care about Rise of Skywalker and I really don't care about the sequel trilogy as a whole. And so I think that my criticism of the sequels needs to be taken with a grain of salt because they've never been doing something that I think is thematically interesting. I had a lot of problems with the sequel trilogy pretty much from the beginning. It's weird because it is also what got me into Star Wars. Before 2016, which is when I saw it, I was a freshman in college. I had a really rough first semester and I was home on winter break, and where I went to school we had a really long winter break. We had a 7-week intersession, so I think all my friends had gone back to school already, and I was online seeing people and they had seen Rise of Skywalker, not Rise of Skywalker, The Force Awakens, and they had really liked it and they were saying things about Kylo Ren that really caught my eye. I thought that there was interesting things being said about him that I would find thematically compelling. I think there's something really interesting about a character who kind of is the architect of their own demise and their own unhappiness, and to be able to see that shit play out and to see them get a chance to do good again is always been really compelling to me. It has been really compelling me from the very beginning. I think that Edmund is a really good, Edmund Pevensey from the Chronicles of Narnia, he's a really good example of somebody who makes himself unhappy and it makes other people around him unhappy, but he isn't himself denied a chance of lasting happiness. So I was excited to see Kylo Ren. I thought I could fuck with Kylo Ren, you know what I mean? I thought he was somebody who would be an exciting, kind of emotionally unstable villain who would be, I don't know, just fun. And then I left The Force Awakens and I'm feeling kind of underwhelmed with it as a movie, but intrigued by the concept of Star Wars. I hadn't actually ever really understood what Star Wars was. My brother was really into it when we were little kids. To me, Star Wars was always just way too overwhelming to ever get into. So I went home from seeing The Force Awakens and I immediately was like, I don't know what to do. So I just watched them in chronological order. I know you're not really supposed to do that, but I did. And I was into it. And I liked The Phantom Menace, which I don't know, I guess you're not supposed to like The Phantom Menace. And then I watched Attack of the Clones and it was eye-opening for me. Everything I wanted in Kylo Ren I was getting in Darth Vader. So uncertain, and he has such a good heart and he comes from a place of such good intentions. And seeing Anakin not have everything he could want just within his reach, and to have all of the resources at his disposal, and to continue to make choices that plunge the galaxy into war, and to cause the death of hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of people, and for him to be saved by his selfless and beautiful and radiant son, Luke Skywalker. It's everything. The more I liked about the originals and the more that I liked about the prequels, the less I liked the sequel trilogy. One thing that always was sort of sour for me was Starkiller Base. In defense of Starkiller Base, I think the Death Star's fucked up also. It makes me incredibly uncomfortable and incredibly apprehensive to think about a planet killing weapon. In defense of the Death Star, the whole movie sort of all of A New Hope, or a significant portion of A New Hope, hinges on what the Death Star is. And I feel like Starkiller Base in comparison is a very small part of The Force Awakens. The destruction that it causes and that it the immense destruction and the effect that this destruction has on the galaxy is never kind of given the weight that I feel it deserves. I think that this Starkiller based problem that I have that is in theory really terrifying and wiped out all, if not most, of the Republic and is never really given the weight, like what are the consequences of doing something like that. I just never felt like that was ever given the kind of narrative or emotional weight that an action like that would deserve, is really indicative of most of the problems I have with the sequel trilogy. I just think that things are kind of out of balance in it. And this becomes really clear for a lot of people when they went to see Rise of Skywalker and it just wasn't what they were expecting. It's not a pacing problem, it's not an execution problem. I think all of the dialogue is good, I think it looks fantastic. There's a lot technically wrong with Rise of Skywalker, I think, but I think like it is a watchable movie, more or less. What people don't like about it, a little bit harder to pin down than, say, if you want to criticize the prequels, it's pretty easy. They're, for some people, they might think they're unwatchable. Dialogue and the acting is weird. The sequels are still another problem for me. I never felt connected to Rey or to Finn or to Poe or to Ben Solo in the way that I felt connected to any of the other characters. Each movie I felt further and further away from them instead of closer to them. And that's like purely personal, but because I know people don't have that reaction to the sequels across the board, but I think like if you can't connect to the characters, it's going to be really difficult for you to ever care about the story, especially when the story is not connected to itself between the three movies. For the prequels, I think this was kind of on purpose because it covers a span of 13 years. For the sequels, it's not. They don't feel connected to each other in a way that feels really meaningful. The stories feel like they are directed and written by entirely different groups of people, and that is because they are. They're made with different intentions. I don't think that if Star Wars wasn't what it was, I don't think people would necessarily feel that they were watching movies in the same series when they were watching the sequel trilogy. 4 years since I've seen The Force Awakens all the way through, and I still think that the moment that sticks out to me the most is when Starkiller Base blows up. Not one planet, but multiple systems of planets, and this is given very little weight in the moment, and it's given no weight after the fact. They don't talk about it, but the reason that nobody can come to their aid in The Last Jedi is because the Republic is gone. It's been blown up, and I don't think that they ever really, like, whoever wrote Starkiller Base to be as powerful as it is didn't really think about the consequences of having a super weapon like that. And then they went on to do The Last Jedi, and they wrote what I think is a fine Star Wars story, which is about fuel and a hyperspace problem, and I didn't like it, but not for the reasons that other people didn't like it. I didn't like how at the end of the movie nobody came. That it was just whoever was left in the Resistance, whoever happened to be there. And I really felt that there was no coming back from it for me. What is the message there? Whatever it is, I don't think it's very Star Wars. What thematically are we trying to say in the sequel trilogy? And like, I don't know. Still, original trilogy is it's one part Bildungsroman for Luke Skywalker, and it's another part important and powerful redemption story for Anakin Skywalker, and nobody is too lost to do good. Things that I really think are important to have in fiction, and important to have in fiction for a young audience. And the prequels are building up to this message that Anakin Skywalker was the chosen one, that he did restore balance to the Force, and he was able to do it through this selfless act where he sacrificed himself for his son. And I think the whole prequel trilogy builds up to this moment in Return of the Jedi where he is able to do this for Luke, which is why the original trilogy really works for me. And I mean, the original trilogy would work for me without the prequels, but the prequels make it really compelling. But I don't, and I don't know, maybe I'm stupid, but I don't know what thematically they're trying to say in the sequels. So here's a couple of themes that could be it. I think Rey Nobody is, you know, the most thematically important and consistent ending of the sequel trilogy, which isn't what happened. It's a Jedi can be anybody, but that's not really totally fair because viewers of the prequel trilogy will know that Jedi obviously can be anybody. And even though Luke does come from a powerful lineage, a lineage of one is just his father, he really couldn't be more nobody if he tried. I mean, he could. He could be not Luke Skywalker, son of Anakin Skywalker, but, you know, Luke's identity isn't onto this Jedi legacy. He makes this Jedi legacy for himself because it's important to him to be connected to all of the Jedi of the past. So in that way, Rey Skywalker works, but in any other way, it really doesn't. You know, Rey picking up Luke's legacy and being connected to all the Jedi who came before her. But then when she goes back to Tatooine, it doesn't really she doesn't seem to be making an effort. She seems to be leaving the Jedi behind her. And maybe this is just like my Jedi bootlicker, like, coming through, because I think that the Jedi would have offered a lot to the galaxy, and I think that it would be important for Rey, if she's going to make her own family and be connected to the Skywalker name and the Skywalker legacy, to all of that, what that entails, to the evil that Anakin Skywalker did and to the order that Luke tried to build back up. It's not very well done. That theme isn't very well done. What theme is that? I don't know. Either of the themes that I think I'm talking about, which is powerful and important people can come from anywhere. That theme could have been way better developed with Finn, but kind of sloppily and very lazily, in my opinion. Making Finn Force sensitive in The Rise of Skywalker is not the way to go about it. To talk more about how Finn, through his own sheer goodness and strength of character, broke through Stormtrooper programming, would have been powerful enough. He didn't need to be a Jedi he doesn't need to be Force sensitive to accomplish something like that. Really against a Force sensitive Finn, but I am totally against the way they executed Force sensitive Finn in Rise of Skywalker. The theme that has been gnawing at me for about, I don't know how to do time, but I guess almost a full year now, is this idea maybe isn't intentional. But I think some people really think it's important. And I don't. And it's the way that the First Order just is there. The First Order is just an excuse to have a mind-boggling evilness and a kind of lazy rehash of the Empire. Like, I don't know that anything they did in the sequel trilogy was anything they really thought about, except in their how to make a blockbuster movie. Is that it feels also so thematically different than Star Wars. I think the crux of Star Wars has always been hope, and even in the darkest of times, like, was always hope, and there was always somebody coming, and there was love, and there was friendship and interconnectedness, but I just felt the characters felt really isolated and disconnected from one another, and I think that there were just some logistical issues, and I think some of it is like people not getting to do what they wanted and not a lot of collaboration being done. Every single problem that I had with the other two movies just made like 100 times worse. So they were listening to fans and they were putting in Reylo kisses when 90% of people really didn't want that, but I really don't know how many people want Reylo and how many people don't, but like when there's like 10% of people who are like very vocal about wanting it, and like most people don't really give a shit either way. Like Rise of Skywalker in particular feels like nobody communicated with each other, just even in the making of this one movie, but it really doesn't feel like anybody was talking about what came before it. And they kind of ignored it as much as they could. And it's empty and it's desolate, and I can't get I've only seen The Last Jedi twice. I can't get over the ending of The Last Jedi where they're just kind of like on crate and nobody comes. Eventually people come in Rise of Skywalker, but like it's too late. You were already like, nah, they're not coming. This is a cruel world we live in. I was like, I don't want that out of Star Wars. Like, I just don't want it out of Star Wars. Most of the Ben stuff was good. I liked almost every single minute of Kylo Ren's stuff. I thought he was good, and I think his redemption arc was weird because he didn't have any dialogue after he was redeemed, but I thought it was compelling thematically, and his character was compelling. I think like there's probably a couple things, and the more I think about it, like if I ever see it again, I'll like less about it, but I think like his scene with Han Solo was like very confusing because Han Solo is obviously dead and it's never addressed why he's there. So what is happening, like what is actually happening? Is it because he just died? Like, is it because Ben just died and he was brought back to life that he can commune with the dead? But Han Solo isn't a Force ghost because Han Solo isn't Force sensitive. So, like, what exactly is happening? I say, I know it doesn't matter, but it kind of matters, right? Like, it doesn't just not matter at all. I also, like, obviously really liked the moment where there were all the other Jedi voices, and I think that could be a really powerful moment, but I don't think they ever followed through with what that really meant for Rey, like what having every generation of Jedi behind her meant, especially because she kind of just left it all behind on Tatooine. So I don't know. I think it was a watchable movie. Like, I'm not saying it wasn't a good movie, and I think that there's lots of things you can like about it. It's just that I just don't. And I obviously people shit on the prequels all day long, so I'm not going to sit here and list things about Rise of Skywalker I didn't like, and I'm not going to sit here and list specific things I didn't like, and I'm obviously not going to attack any of the actors. I think everybody did a good job. It just like isn't for me. Like, it couldn't be less for me, which is so weird because it exists in this universe that is so up my alley. Yeah, but that's it. I was gonna like write something for it, but I just thought this would be better. I like the videos where I just kind of chat. Also, did you see the Clone Wars trailer? I think it was really good. I'm so excited for this last and final season of the Clone Wars. I also watched Revenge of the Sith last night, and I'm like just not prepared to see that shit again. Thank you for watching me fold my laundry and kind of just ramble. I don't, yeah, 36 minutes. Okay. I don't know how long this video is going to be. Let's see. 15 minutes? Yeah. Okay, bye. Like, I think there are too many people online who were like, I think Rey Palpatine would be really funny and kind of unexpected, and Disney was like, okay. You wanted it.